Ahoy and welcome to Titanic Talkline. I am Alexia, and this week I am going to not say I'm excited because I've said that every single episode, I think. So I am very God damn it. Every single
You could,
synonym I have for excited just went out of my head.
it's okay. I'm not like a cool guy. It's okay. You'd not be excited for me.
You are a cool guy. I am excited to see you. So you know what? I am very excited. I have Nick on the show. I don't know how to. I don't know if you wanted me to say your last name or not, so I just decided not to.
Um, I might as well. Like, I'm no
Okay.
nobody. I've been worried about doxing in the past, but like, I'm literally a nobody. My name's Nick Williams. Um, I'm just a Titanic enthusiast. I'm just an average guy who's been really into it, and really really grateful for you to let me on here and just kind of chat, and especially following up, like Don Lynch and members of the Ismay family. It's like, oof, what have I done?
But like, it's not always about that. And that's, I get that
Right.
reaction a lot, and maybe I should just make it like abundantly clear. Once again, that's like, it's not necessary, it's not about your prestige. The prestige is nice. And it's also nice to talk to people like, Don Lynch and the members of the Titanic International Society who have that that experience. But it doesn't make anyone else's experience any less valid or interesting because, at the end of the day, as everyone keeps reiterating, this is a human story, and human stories
Mm-hmm.
involve everyone. So, yeah, I get the sentiment, but it's like if you've wanted to go on the show or you're like thinking, oh, that might be a cool time, it's like don't excuse me, don't get hung up on that idea because it's not about that. Everyone's story is cool, and I'm excited to hear yours, Nick. So what is
Yeah.
your Titanic story?
Oh, my Titanic story. All right.
Yes.
So I have been obsessed for a long time. Um, and we will get to the movie, but it doesn't actually start with the movie.
Ooh,
The movie came out in 1997, and I was like 4 in 1997. So I
that's
did
fair.
not see it. I did not see it in theaters, and in fact, I don't think I remember a time growing up where it wasn't like in existence. Um, I was aware. I was always kind of aware there was this big movie called Titanic and the ship. So I don't really have a memory where it wasn't like in my mind at some point.
I understand that.
Um, I do remember we had the big double cassette, double VHS
The
tape.
classic VHS tape.
Um, one. But for me, it really started around probably third or fourth grade, and I'm not sure exactly why. Um, just I guess okay, it did kind of start with the movie, but not with watching the movie. The cover
Sure.
of the box of the movie has that striking image of the Titanic with its stern way up in the air,
I
and
have it behind me actually. I didn't remember. Hold on.
you get
I have a DVD version that doesn't have this one. Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. This is just the classic, the cinema
yeah.
poster. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is gonna sound weird to anybody listening. So you know how the front of it has the ship,
Yeah.
and you got Jack and Rose's face. When
Yes.
I was like a little kid, I used to like look down my nose and be like, "That's the ship of the Titanic. Here's some waves."
It is the exact same angle though.
Yeah, like look down, it's like the same exact angle. That's just a really weird thing that people know now. Um, but yeah, that image of the ship sticking out, this just always kind of struck with me.
Hmm.
And when I got into about fourth grade, uh, my fourth grade teacher had a model of the ship on her desk, and she was really into it. And I was like, "That's really cool." And around that same time, there's the Scholastic Book Fair came to town,
Oh my God, the
and
Scholastic book. I just knocked over my pop filter. I got so excited about remembering the Scholastic book fair.
oh, wasn't that like so awesome if you
Oh,
were a
I
kid who likes
loved it.
books?
It was amazing. And I know that everyone, two things I'm going to say. Number one, I know that, not everyone could, afford to take place and everything. And that's definitely upsetting. And number two, there are libraries. But there was something about the Scholastic Book Fair. And I think, again, because it was done by Scholastic, you had things that you didn't get at your library for a while. You'd
Mm-hmm.
have all these new releases and you'd have titles by authors that maybe weren't super popular in like your neighborhood. I know that sounds weird, but this is pre-internet. So you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
just go online and Google like top 10 books for fantasy
Mm-hmm.
loving middle schoolers. This was how you discovered new stuff.
Uh,
This is how you found new things.
it's like all you had to go to. Did you get like the catalog before they came? with
Yes,
like
that was
a,
always exciting.
and all the books had like a 1 sentence thing to sell you on them.
Hmm.
And this is how you found new books, especially for me. I grew up in the boonies, so like we didn't have reliable internet until I was in high school.
Same.
Um, so yeah, going on the internet was not an option. But at one of these book fairs, already as a kid, I was really into those Magic Treehouse books. You know about
Yes.
those?
Yes, my
And
brother, I think my brother's closer in age to you. He's 5 years
okay,
younger than I
yep.
am,
I
but
turned 30 next year. I'm
yeah,
not,
he
not
will.
not next year, next month. Next month I
He
turned 30.
he's turning 29. So yeah, he's right there, but I think Magic Treehouse just missed me by a couple of years, but he was really into them. So they were kind of ubiquitous in my childhood and just I saw my brother reading them. He really liked those books.
Yeah, they're really wacky. It's like the first one they go to
They,
Dinosaur Land, but like one of
I
them
do kind of remember that.
they go to the Titanic,
I think
right?
that's one of the only ones I actually read.
And so I remember that one, and I was thinking like, how? Part of me was like, how the hell are they going to get out of this? And the treehouse ends up on one of the funnels, I think, and just no one notices, which I just thought was hilarious. I don't even remember what they did in that book. I just remember that. But there was another thing those books did. They had like these, I think they called them field guides, like Magic
Okay,
Treehouse Field Guide, and it would be on a
sure.
topic like dinosaurs or something. And instead of being a story like the regular books, it'd be like an illustrated informational book. And they had one of those on Titanic.
Of course.
And they had like all the information and like illustrations of like this is how much stuff she carried and how many people on her, and illustrations of like certain individuals, like the guys in the band and Murdoch and stuff like that,
Right.
and all these facts. And I was just kind of enraptured by that. I don't know what it was. It's like the story of this ship just seemed very interesting to me, and just kind of a primal, visceral way. And then from then, I just kind of got obsessed with this ship that sank. Um, and then my fourth grade teacher, Miss Baker, who had the model, we would talk about it a lot. She was upset because I was like, "Oh, I love that." She was like, "Oh, me too." Um, Rest in peace. She passed away a few years ago, but she
Oh,
was a huge, huge influence on that. Um,
nice.
let's see here. If I want to, but sorry if you have to cut like any us or whatever's
Oh,
out.
okay. I
Oh,
normally don't
okay,
edit stuff out because
okay,
conversation. It's stuff happens.
yeah, cool. Sorry, I just don't want to bore anybody.
Nah, I think the only time I've ever cut anything out was when like LA got a grocery delivery halfway through our thing and it was like an actual 10-minute pause. Like I'm not gonna keep
Oh
that
my
in, but what
goodness.
I did keep in was her coming back and screaming and going, I think I just stripped my cat. It was like, well, that's
Um,
staying.
and then okay, I just glanced at my notes. I remember the next thing that got me into it that was big.
I'm just
So
glad you have
and
notes. I never do. And then I lose my
oh,
train of thought and I can't get back to it. No, this is very smart.
thank you. So in 2003, James Cameron made a thing called Ghost of the Abyss.
Oh my God, that was
Um,
20 years ago.
yeah, and I never got to see it in theaters. I think I saw it on
No, I
TV
didn't either.
once. But it came with a book, a hardcover book with like 3D changing pictures and stuff. And it
Oh,
had all these illustrations, including I forget the illustrator, the guy who did basically like the only pictures you would see of the wreck
Ken
were these two.
Marshall.
Yeah, him. It had paintings by him in there, and again, just kind of the story, but like all these pictures from Cameron's expeditions and stuff like that. And so I just ate that shit up,
Hmm.
um, and just became more and more just enraptured by it until finally I got around to watching the movie.
When
Um,
did you see the movie? I know that you said you were 4 when it came out. It makes sense that that
yeah,
is not when you would see it. But like myself and many others, and if I don't know if you remember who've come on the show, they've been like, yeah, I saw it when I was 6, I saw it when I was 9, 8, 7,
I think
a
I
lot of
was
that.
I think I must have been around. So it's probably around the same time where I started getting into it, around 10 or 11.
Hmm.
And at first, I only watched the second VHS that has the ship sink because that's
Yeah,
what I
why do
cared about.
you I was gonna say who are those people? Get out.
Yeah, well, I just
Get
want to watch
off
the.
of my get off of my ship.
Just I just all I wanted to watch was the ship sink. God damn it! And
I will admit that when I was a kid, I did watch the second tape several times more than I watched the first one.
yeah,
Just saying.
I mean, hey, I grew up in a house that loved disaster movies, like my mom especially, and I kind of want to talk about this a little because I love Titanic
Yeah,
as a movie. Not all these are my original ideas. I've heard some of these, but I've also thought of some of them. But like
sure.
Titanic is a really weird movie if you think about it. That I think could only have been made in the year 1997 by James Cameron, because
Interesting. Go on.
it's half disaster movie, half romance, and this kind of comes at a time when like those two were like the big genres of the 90s. I mean, think of all the disasters of the 90s. So you had like Dante's Peak, uh, Deep Impact, Armageddon, uh, Volcano. Shortly after that, you had stuff like Day After Tomorrow. So like people were just eating up all this big spectacle, right? And that's what the whole second half of Titanic is.
Right.
Um, Whereas the first half is more in vain of like all these big romances that were kind of going on at the same time in the 90s. Romeo plus Juliet, and my brain is being stupid and pulling a brink, but I do know there was like a lot of late 90s romance movies.
There were, and there
And
was also not necessarily romance movies, but similarly, there was romantic comedies were a huge part of cinema at the time. In the late
absolutely.
90s into the 2000s were an exceptionally important time for romantic comedies and some more serious romance movies. But yeah, you're absolutely right in that those were, I just Googled why were there so many disaster movies in the 90s? And unfortunately, no one's actually done any research into that. But I did get a bunch of things, the like best 90s disasters movies, and this list, there's so
So many.
many. Yeah, Alive, Firestorm, Avalanche, Daylight, Fearless, Outbreak, Armageddon, Deep Impact, Deep Blue Sea, Volcano, Dante's Peak,
The
Independence
core
Day, Core in
and
Apollo
Independence Day.
13, Titanic, and Twister. But I mean, this is just one
Oh,
list.
Twister. I love
Twister.
Twister.
I haven't actually seen it all the way through yet, but I do intend to. But yeah, no, there was so many.
It's kind of like there was a bunch in the 70s as well. It's like they seem to go on
Yeah,
cycles.
when I was typing in why were there so many disaster movies in the 70s was the first thing that it wanted to
Yeah.
autofill for me. Um,
70s you had like Earthquake and the Towering Inferno and
yes.
the Poseidon Adventure.
But this one specifically, there's a couple of articles here where I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm just looking at the highlights here. It's like the 90s were the golden age of disaster movies. In 90s disaster movies, catastrophe seems to be lending a hand. It's nature's way of ensuring that the heroic white guy doesn't get permanently downsized.
Hmm,
They
makes
focus on the
sense.
horrors of encountering a gigantic natural force instead of kaiju movies. It doesn't exactly say why.
I just think it caught. I just think there was something about the zeitgeist at that time. It was the 90s. It was like the last, like, people weren't as worried about shit anymore. So we could just go eat
True.
popcorn and watch, buildings explode.
I
Um,
personally was theorizing it might have something to do with the reason I looked it up was with the technology available at the time.
that's what I
That
was going to say too. It's like with the technology, it just becomes so much easier to destroy
yeah, like right, was it
stuff.
so much easier to do
Yeah.
that and all of a sudden be like, no, we don't have to build and explode a miniature town. We
We
don't
could do
have
CG.
yeah, we
Yeah.
could do that partial CG. Sorry, I completely derailed this, but I was looking for an
No, you're okay.
explanation and I similarly did so many um a search for like the romantic movies and I didn't get, you know,
Yeah.
an answer in the same way. But once again, I got that same thing. It's like, here's a list, and there's just like, it's just rolling straight down from like, there's just so many of them rom coms and romance movies. There's just, you're right. This was a very golden time for both of those
Yeah.
genres in cinema and in big scale cinema.
And then you have James Cameron come along, you know, coming off a hot, we all, as a person, I think he's kind of an asshole. Like he's kind of famous for being an asshole.
Sure.
But as a director, is, one of the goats, obviously. And coming into Titanic, he's coming off like one of the hottest streaks of directors ever done. Um, he did. I almost said he did Terminator 1, but yeah, he did. He did Terminator 1, Aliens 2, The Abyss, Terminator 2. I think True Lies was also before Titanic. And I think every single one of those was a big hit. So he's coming off with all this clout and all
Yeah.
this money to where in 1997 he could basically make whatever the fuck he wants. And luckily for us, he also got obsessed with Titanic and was like, I'm going to do this shit. Where, and he had the clout to have that control as well, like over
Right.
the student. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they would do it today because studios are so involved in how like sticking their things in now, and directors are, there's not as many powerful directors now.
I don't
Um,
remember where or when it was, but I think Cameron himself did an interview where he was saying like the liberty he was given and the ability to construct as much as he was to make practical sets, even to him, would not be granted today to do the same thing because he's like, there's
yeah,
simply no cost benefit to it now. They would not allow that. And he wasn't saying it in like a those motherfuckers way, but he was just like, we've moved.
it's just the facts of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like whether fortunately or unfortunately, we have moved beyond that as a method of production
And
or
so
a
luckily,
style of production, I guess.
and so it's kind of this crazy time capsule where we have like this blending of CG and practical effects in terms of
Right.
like the sinking sequences. And um, I mean, Jurassic Park kind of made that big too. That's
Yeah.
like the 90s were also just really good for blending CG and practical in a lot of good ways. That
I agree.
uh, was going. So that's why I think it could have only been made like when it was made, by who it was made. Just
Sure.
Cameron had the clout, the zeitgeist was right, and this wreck had not been discovered that long before, like 10 years before,
Yeah, when he started, yeah, 10 years.
something like that. Um, anyway, though, eventually I did get around to watching the whole thing, and I just fucking loved it. It made me cry. Um, I'm not ashamed to admit I
Nothing wrong
wept a
with
little
that.
bit. The first time I really remember seeing it and really taking it in was actually the 2012 re-release that they
Did you
did.
go see it in theaters?
I did, yeah.
Nice. I missed
Uh,
it.
I saw it in 3D, which I was like, how is this going to be in 3D? It was actually really cool because it wasn't made for 3D, so you didn't have that
Yeah.
stuff flying at the camera stuff. It just gave it everything just like more depth. Like the scenes when they're on the deck and it just looks like you're looking straight down the deck all the way. Or
Hmm.
when Calvin shoots into the water and the water splashes up at the screen, that looks pretty cool. But that was the first time I think I watched the movie in its entirety and just kind of took it in. And by the end of it, I was just like, oh my God, I'm wrecked.
I
Uh,
didn't get to see Titanic in theaters until this year. I think I talked about that a little bit on the show as well, because I sort of just missed or went past every time it got re-released. Because I think, like with most people, sometimes your interest is wax and wane, or sometimes you're just busy. Like I remember I was in school for some of this. In 2012, I was still in college. There was, I was probably doing a lot there. And, there's always a reason where you can and can't do something. So when I finally got around to seeing it in theaters, it had been a long time and I'd already seen it a couple times over the course of recording the show for about half a year at that point. But it was still, as you said, a really encapsulating experience because it is such a grand scale movie. And you don't often get, there are some people who have really cool at home setups where they have a massive screen and incredible surround sound. I don't have that. So I go to a theater to have that. And
right.
that's a fun thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie that's worth, I think, the theater experience. One of those ones.
That's everyone's saying that about Oppenheimer coming out, which I don't, what are you going to go
We're
see
gonna
that?
see. We're gonna see both. We're gonna see Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I'm going to see
Um,
Barbie for sure in theaters. I know that everyone's like, no, the Nolan one is the one you have to see on the grand scale. I'm like, I don't know if I care that much about that movie personally.
see, I don't think I kind of with you. I'm like the main reason I'm interested, and the main reason I think a lot of people are interested is when Nolan said, "I recreated the nuclear test without CGI," and everyone's just, "What the fuck did you do?"
The answer is
I
probably
mean,
going to be something really simple like
like,
talc powder and a
yeah,
fisheye lens.
yeah. I mean, if you blow up enough regular explosives, it does make a mushroom cloud.
Oh, I
So
didn't know
that's
that.
kind of what I'm leaning towards. I have seen some people be like, I wonder if the Department of Defense gave them a nuke, which would
Could
be
hope
nuts.
not.
I hope not.
You would
No.
really goddamn fucking hope not. But
Um,
I, I did not know that about that movie. So I watched. I had looked up nothing about Oppenheimer, and I actually fully admit I don't know the story very well. So I watched the trailer like 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer. I've kind of stayed away from them.
That's fair.
Uh, pretty. I saw a thing yesterday. It was talking about how much nudity there is with Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh, which is which is not what I was expecting to hear about this movie. I'm like,
No,
I
sorry, the
don't know if
laughter was it was just kind
it's
of a
okay.
surprise. Like, what?
Yeah, it's like what? It's like yes,
That's a choice.
Florence Pugh is gorgeous, but like I don't know. Like
It's
I'm
just
sorry,
an interesting choice for that film.
I don't know if I want to watch the Scarecrow from Batman. Fuck, you know?
That's a valid point, but also just like I watched that trailer. It didn't seem like a sexy film.
Yeah, just does not seem like a dude who. Yeah, does not seem like it would be a big part of that. But yeah,
No,
we're
but
gonna see that,
apparently
and I think it's really cool how it and Barbie have like kind of leaned into each other. I
I
think
like
that's
that.
pretty special,
It
especially in
is.
sorry, go on.
I was just agreeing that it definitely is.
Especially in the days where like everything is a sequel to something.
Oh,
I
and
mean,
not only that, but like everything's a competition too.
and I know Barbie's based on a thing, but like it seems to be original enough and it looks fun. It just looks fun.
And that's I didn't grow up with Barbies, not because I
Yeah.
was, against it. My mom was not a big fan of the idea. But if
Mhm.
someone gave me one as a toy, she wasn't like, no, she didn't take it away, but she didn't give them to me. So, when it's just not encouraged, you don't really lean into it as much. But it was still such an omnipresent part of my life. It was every toy aisle because I was a young girl in the 90s was Barbie, and all of my peers loved Barbie. She was around. I didn't hate Barbie. I, would play with her at friend's house and I thought she was cool. And I liked all the different versions. That was something that I remember noticing as a kid because, I'm sure when you're a guy, you have firemen and policemen and
Yeah.
action heroes and Supermen, and it was like you can do these little things. And granted, some people don't like pink and she thinks she's a little too feminine, but it's like when you boil it down to it, Barbie could do anything. She was an astronaut and a teacher
Yeah.
and all these things. Like she's a smart bitch.
Yeah. I thought it was and the trailer was cool. I think the trailer had me sold when she stepped out the high heel on her foot stage.
Yeah. that
That had
was it was such a silly little detail. Where it was like, yeah, that's the Barbie. This is
I was like
Barbie.
I'm like that's the vibe. That's good. And all the Ryan Gosling stuff is funny as hell too.
I love Ryan Gosling. Speaking of people that just like lean into things, it's kind of
Oh my
like he's
god.
just like here for it. And I appreciate that. And I think that out of the Ryans, he may be the slightly underappreciated one because Ryan Reynolds is kind of like a TikTok meme gone wild. So it's easy to
Yeah.
feel like, look at him go. But Ryan Gosling is good times. He's a good
Yeah.
time. He seems like
Did
a
you
fun guy.
did you see the French mistranslations on the posters? Did you hear
No,
about that? Oh my god.
no.
I have a friend who's French and
Hmm.
she took pictures of him and so the tagline is like what she's Barbie, she could do everything and he's just Ken.
Hmm.
And in French, the way it's worded is a slang is apparently a slang term. Like it's a slang language that basically says she's Barbie, she could do everything. Ken just knows how to fuck.
Excellent.
And that's what it says in French, which is
I feel
excellent.
like that's actually the non-child friendly way of saying exactly what Ken is for. Like in the Barbie
Exactly.
universe. Like he's
Yeah.
he's he's nothing. He's a boy toy. He's Ken. He's Ken. What is Ken? A Ken.
Just a guy. Just a kid.
Yep. The
Anyway.
sorry, last anecdote.
No,
So
it's okay.
Facebook,
It's okay.
the way that Facebook now advertises is that I think back when it used to show kind of the full commercial, but now advertisers are switching to these sort of like TikTok things. There's about 10, 15 seconds. And so they do this with movie clips where you'll get sort of like a 5-second look into a film. And they rotate clips on me. The last one that I'd seen from Barbie was the did you bring your rollerblades? Oh, it was that one, but this one now is Barbie saying to Will Ferrell, "We should go find Ken," and him going, "Ken's not something we're worried about at all," and that's
I
it.
think I think the last one I saw was Ken talking to a doctor about something, and he was like, "But I'm a man." And the
Yeah.
doctor was, and the doctor was like, "But you're not a doctor. Come back."
Come back when you're a doctor.
He's just like, "But I'm a man."
I have seen that one. I'm so excited for this movie. As you said, it just looks fun.
It'll be funny. My wife and I, if we can, if we can in time, we're gonna try to go to Goodwill and like get like fanny packs and just bright colored shit.
Nice.
We decided that my version of Ken would probably wear a man bun, so I'll put my hair up in like a man bun,
I like
which I've
that.
never done before and have no idea how it will be on me, but we'll try it.
I sure look good. I am not one of those people that denigrates a man bun because if your hair is long, a bun is a great way to keep it off of your neck.
I believe it. I'm just really bad at fucking with my hair. I can barely
No, I
keep it
understand.
in a pony. Of
I
course,
only can because it's a bit textured.
I didn't have long hair until COVID though. Like it literally is the reason. And then I
Wow,
just kind
that's
of
impressive growth for only COVID.
yeah. Well, let's see. I got my hair cut in January 2020, and then
Hmm.
hair and it was short, and then COVID hit, and then
Yeah,
it's
fair
been
enough.
going since then.
It's a good look though.
And then my
I
wife
like
likes it, so I'm like, okay.
I like
And now
long hair on everybody.
it, I like it too.
I just think it looks fun.
Yeah, more people should do it. I think no one's giving me
Agreed.
shit. Occasionally, I'll get like a ma'am at work from behind, and
Uh-huh.
then I'll turn around, just reveal the whole beard and stuff, and just oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Or my favorite thing is when we were all wearing masks at work still,
Oh,
and
yes.
some dude, oh my god, sometimes dudes would like say something to me. I work with the public, and
Sure.
God, I'm glad I'm a dude because like I have female coworkers who get
Yeah.
hollered at all the time. And when I was wearing the mask, that happened to me a few times.
Hmm.
Because just all they say, and one guy was like, "Hey, girl," and I just go in my deepest voice, "Hey, how you doing?"
I'm sure they love it.
They'd be like, "What?"
People
I
are
pulled down my
ridiculous.
mask. I was like, that wouldn't be cool even if I was who you thought I was, right?
Right, like nobody actually wants
Who wants to
that.
be
That's
hollered
annoying.
at work by some rando?
That's the thing that I don't understand is that with the argument that people always make is like, it's a compliment. It's like, do you want to be bothered while you're working? Nobody really wants to be bothered while they're working.
No, get your shit and get out.
100% that.
I'm
That's
getting paid.
out. Exactly that. I don't want to entertain whatever you think that I'm supposed to entertain about. No, 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 no. There's a big no to that. But
Uh,
I have a hair note
okay.
about Titanic stuff that I just thought of. And it's interesting because I found this to be true when you think about, hair in history, is that first of all, not even so long ago, long hair was fashionable on men and and on women, and to the point where there was elaborate updos for both. And throughout history, there's been, the powdered wigs and these very elaborate things where you have an external hairpiece, but there's a lot of historical hairdos where your hair would be like braided and curled and then sewn to hold it into these like really interesting, intricate braid things. I read about that somewhere, where I think it was ancient, like Greek historians were trying to recreate a hairstyle, and they're like, I don't know how to do this. So they finally asked, I don't know if she was either a modern hairdresser or like somebody who has experience with or also a textilist. And she came in and was like, you actually have to, like, you can't just pin this. You're gonna have to actually like sew this in place. And that's how they would do it. But only recently, I'm thinking also back to like 1912, where, women would have, the big, big hats and the very elaborate hair, and men's hair was, by then cut a little bit shorter,
Pretty
but
much a lot of short, a lot of
mhm.
mustaches.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking like it would have been essentially completely taboo for a man to have long hair at the time. And it's just interesting how quote unquote hair rules, which are not rules, but sort of the way that hair is regarded on everyone is different because, it used to
It
be
is really interesting.
unacceptable. Yeah, and also I wouldn't have been able to just walk around with my hair down in a ponytail like this. It normally would have
Yeah,
had to have been like up in a style of some kind. This is too
yeah,
casual.
exactly. Luckily, again, because we like, I haven't. Luckily, no one's given me any shit personally.
Right.
Um, First of all, I'll be like, I'm not religious, but first of all, I grew up really religious, so I'll be like,
Hmm.
what? You ain't never heard of Samson, man? Come on.
There we go.
Or Jesus wasn't white, but I'll be like, what Jesus? What, you don't like Jesus?
Everyone depicts
This is
Jesus
the
exactly like that.
exact.
It's
Yeah,
the long hair.
I've gotten a couple comments like, man, you look like Jesus. I'm like, I don't though, right?
You look like your Jesus.
I look like white Jesus,
You're like white Jesus.
blue eyes and everything. He came from the Caucasus.
It's an A plus look. I think it's a good look. I don't look like that.
Jesus?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, I'm not mad about that. It's not a comparison I want, but like I'm thinking of, Rose obviously has her hair in all kinds of elaborate ways in the film, but
Right.
you look at Trudy even. She doesn't just have her hair in a little ponytail. It's
Yeah, it's
in
like
some sort of tuck.
there's like these two braids, right? Trudy's her mom, right?
No, I'm talking about her
No.
maid.
Oh, she's the poor
Just
one
even
who's,
the maid.
yeah, yeah,
All the female staff, you'll see they have their hair like in some sort of coif.
yeah. And they're all in these heavy, heavy clothes,
Mm-hmm.
just layered up. It must have been hot as hell, like in the
I can't
summertime. Like I
even
can't even
imagine.
imagine. And of course,
No.
if you're in a shipwreck, it's not very conducive to swimming. I mean,
No, not
not that that would have helped in Titanic's case, but
no, but I don't think it helped either for
and I
everyone
don't
to
think it
suddenly
helped
weigh like
anyway.
50 extra pounds. Be like, well,
Yeah.
this is an exciting moment in history for me. Princess is barking outside. Sorry if you can hear the
Okay.
dog.
Oh, it's okay.
I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna say, well, this is kind of on topic. We're talking about the time period. Another reason I've always kind of liked Titanic too is the time period it's in. Um, I am really into early 20th century and late 19th century history and
Yeah,
stuff. Specifically, like between the world wars and including the world wars. So Titanic's a little bit before that. Um, and which I think is part of why it's so romanticized as well. It's kind of like one of the
right.
last things of the world before the world
Yeah.
kind of went to shit in a
Quote
big way.
unquote untainted in that way where
Yeah,
it wasn't affected by the haze of the war like so many other things were.
right. It's like the last. It's like one of the last romantic big things. Obviously, like there are still shitty things going on. You know,
Well,
ask the kid chimney sweeps
the
and
Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
and anyone who was black living in America
Oh,
at the
Jesus.
time. You know, but at the same time, uh, starting in 1914, just like everything changed. And then
Yeah.
from the years 14 to 18, the world was completely different in so many kind of ways. And oh, God, I'm so sorry for trailing off and stuff.
That's okay. I do that all the time.
Um, because I have like broad knowledge, but I don't
Hmm.
know that it's very deep, and I don't want to come off like just an idiot.
I mean, I don't really know that much about it anyway. All I was gonna say was
uh,
it is a very interesting period of time, not just in terms of what happened, but in terms of not interesting, but war changes not just the society it directly affects, but those that the society affects as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And and it's weird to think. I mean, if Titanic hadn't sank, she wouldn't be as we wouldn't care about her as much.
No.
She probably would have sank in the war, to be honest, if she hadn't sank in
Yeah.
1912.
Or ended up like Olympic, just scrapped later.
Yeah, that's so sad, right? I mean,
It is. It's disappointing, but it's
now,
also like, I guess I get it
yeah,
at the time.
Brit- Britannic's wreck is still in good shape. I hear.
That's what I hear as well, but I think is that one of the ones that they haven't actually shared the location for it because they don't want people getting all over it, which would make a lot of sense.
Not sure. I know Bismarck is like that, the battleship. I know Ballard
Yeah,
kept that a secret, but
that
I
makes
think
sense.
Britannic is in pretty shallow water in the Aegean
Hmm,
Sea, so I think it's pretty easily found. Like it
cool.
sank. I do know when it sank by the head,
Yeah.
and it actually stopped for a while because it sank in water. It was shallower than it was long.
Mm,
So its bow hit the bottom, and then the stern just kind of stayed out for a little bit,
what a
and then
weird thing to witness.
kind of settled by its head. We talked about it a little bit on the Titanic movie live stream we did a few months ago.
Oh, yeah,
We talked about Britannic, and I wasn't on audio on that one. I was just spamming the chat.
whatever.
Um, that's a really cool story where almost everyone lived, and almost all the people who didn't got chopped up by the propeller because they were stupid. So,
Ugh, what a horrible
like, what
concept.
happened is on that one, because if anyone doesn't know, this is just a fascinating story. It's like Britannic struck a mine, as we know,
Hmm.
or we know now. They didn't know at the time if it was a torpedo.
Britannic.
Yeah. Did I say Titanic?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Whatever.
Titanic struck a mine too. Truth. No.
Hashtag we know now.
Yeah, there's icebergs aren't real.
They won't be
Uh,
soon.
True. So Britannic hits this mine and it starts going down, and their captain wants to get it close to land before it goes down. So he starts steering it, and because it's going down slowly enough by the head, and he tells everyone get ready for lifeboats, but don't launch the lifeboats yet.
Mm-hmm.
Two lifeboat crews panicked and decided they weren't going to wait, and so they launched the lifeboats while the ship was still moving.
Mm.
And because the ship was still moving and it was going down by the head, the propellers were sticking out of the water. So they went in the water and just drifted back, and they got chopped up.
That's terrible.
Sucks. But that's almost everyone who died on Britannic. You know, everyone else basically lived. It's pretty cool. Even their captain just stepped off the bridge into the water.
It's pretty cool when you think about it.
That's pretty badass.
It's really interesting to just think about how many shipwrecks there are at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh my God. I've heard there's more on the bottom than there are currently sailing.
Yeah, that is also what I've heard. Just like, years of how many, wooden and steamships were sent out over the hundreds and hundreds of years, and we didn't have any other way of transporting people, that just sank within whatever period for whatever reason. Stuff just kind of happens. Like,
It's like sailing by ship was just so dangerous for so long. It's just, it's terrifying, really. I mean, I'm at the beach now, and you go to the beach and you just look out at that ocean. It's just like, it just goes on forever.
I just Googled some photos of the Britannic wreck. And on the one hand, I am thinking, wow, I would love to dive to that. And then I'm seeing a photo of divers, probably taken from somebody a little further away, of, a diver in proportion who's like on the side of the ship. I'm like, that's big.
Yeah,
That's
how small
big.
they look.
That's really big. I don't know if I want to go near anything that big. I fully admit that I have submechanophobia, something I didn't realize existed until I went on Reddit one night. And
Oh,
yeah, don't do that. I found a
yeah,
forum
stay.
that was called,
Don't go on Reddit.
no, yes, don't go on Reddit. But if you do, don't do what I do, which is see a video like on your suggested page from a subreddit called submechanophobia and go, huh, what's that? And then watch it and realize that it's, this clearly it's about massive underwater structures and how horrifyingly huge they fucking are.
It's good.
And
Actually, can you grab me some?
it's always nice to have someone come and ask if you want another
Thank you.
drink.
Yeah, my wife just came in. I was like, yes, can you please pour me a
I'm not mad. I wish someone would do that to me. That's not gonna happen.
So it's the fear of large structures underwater.
It's a fears of large underwater man-made objects. So I saw the video I'm talking about is this guy who was, maybe he was like a diver doing work on maybe some underwater piping or underwater plumbing or some kind of underwater whatever. And then he looks up and there's just a fucking massive ass ship passing overhead. And she's like, no, 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 no. I don't like that. That's nope. And that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Was like, I think it would be super cool to swim to it. And then I'd all of a sudden be hit by this thing where I'm just like, that's so big and it's down there.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. It conjures to mind like underwater cities to me. Like,
oh yeah,
just
that was
thinking about
out.
underwater structures and stuff like that.
It's cool. It's like, it's really cool to imagine, but for some reason, I think maybe it's because, you have to bring your own light underwater. There's no natural sources of light. It's exceptionally eerie.
Yeah, and I've never gone scuba diving or anything like that. I don't know that. Maybe I would try it. I don't know. Part of me is like, I would try a bunch of stuff if I had like a professional with me, but I don't want to do like decompression dives or anything like that where you have to sit for an hour or more at a depth and like go up slowly. Thank you.
Apparently, the Titanic wreck is the largest shipwreck available to scuba dive anywhere in the world. I mean, it makes sense. It's a base.
Makes sense.
It's an almost intact Olympic class.
It's only broken at the bow a little bit where it hit the bottom.
But insofar as, at least one side of it being the complete superstructure and seeing again how fucking large this thing is. Oh yeah, you get the scale.
Yeah. It's like,
I was hoping
sorry,
to
what?
find.
Sorry, can you be able to tie this off my suit for me real quick?
Yeah. Just give me a second. Get
Sorry. Can you
Sorry. In a moment, I need to tie a bathing suit.
Tying up bathing suits. What an exciting thing. Go ahead and tie up your bathing suit. I can
Okay.
pause the
Well,
recording like a
wait.
genius.
You're good. What?
Lighter, do you want it in a bowl?
I think that swimsuit tying up thing proves we just still need not maids. We don't need handmaids. That's not what I want to say, but like dressing assistants sometimes.
We need each other sometimes.
There we go. We need each other. That's a way nicer way of putting what I was attempting to go for. Jesus Christ.
We need maids.
We need maids. Get the serving class back in here. I need to go.
That's exactly what we need. We need to make a new serving class.
Oh, so here's the thing though. Like, I am a fan of the universal base income.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me raise the flag. Let's so anybody listening knows in case.
Yep.
Because I'll put my Twitter and stuff at the end of this in case anybody wants to follow my deranged.
I'll put it
brain.
in my in the description box so you don't have to list.
Sure, but I'm a huge lefty, so
but
I've come all the way from the other side. I grew up in a Fox News household. I voted for Newt Gingrich the first time I was allowed to vote.
Exciting. Good times.
Yeah, thank God that didn't work out.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting presidency, I think.
It would have been unhinged.
Okay,
yeah, that is the word for it. It decidedly would have been unhinged. But
yeah, no, I've come full circle now.
Yeah. I didn't bring that up to be I had a point. The reason I was bringing that up is because I have some friends that I know that even if we had a UBI would be very like, I have to work, I have to do something. And I have, there are some people that don't actually mind doing whatever menial work. And honestly, if that were the case, I wouldn't mind being, if, somebody needs help, around their house a little bit, just like getting dressed in the morning, maybe making, putting their breakfast together, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, that would not be a not worthwhile day spent for me. That is not negative work to me.
Yeah, like the whole idea that like UBI would make lazy people is just bullshit because people want to work and do stuff. They just want their work to be able to support them. Like right now, so I graduated with a BA in English.
Oh, same.
Yay. See, are you also not using yours at all?
That would be correct.
Yeah. Saving mine is a very expensive piece of toilet paper, as far as I know. I've actually lost my diploma. I don't know where it's at.
Mine's been nicely framed and hung up on the wall along with my equally unused MBA.
I was gonna go that. I was gonna go teach college at first, but then kids, childhood stuff threw that off.
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. So right now I work in retail, but like I would be perfectly fine. And right now I make just enough not to try look for anything else because the job market just fucking sucks.
Yes, it does.
Especially for people with an English degree whose only work experience has been in retail for the last 10 years.
Yep. It's a difficult place.
But right now I'm making just enough to like keep me from looking stay stable. And if they threw in UBI on top of that, like I wouldn't just quit my job.
Yeah, I know.
I'd stay. Some people would, but like,
yes,
I think most of us would keep doing. Most of us would be able to maybe find things we like better.
I think that there would be a period of adjustment where there's like definitely some places that go out of business because they've been terrible, and that would cause a weird vacuum. But it's sort of one of those things where it's like perhaps that's the way it was meant to be,
Yeah. Maybe if you're a shitty business, maybe people shouldn't want to work for you.
Oh my God, hard agree. Like it would be amazing to be able to, for example, put Walmart out of business. However, on the flip side, I know
I'll work for them.
Yeah. I will also say that for many small towns, like they only have a Walmart. So if that all went out of business, that could be super detrimental for them. And it's like, I see where there's positives and negatives and where it would be a big hard adjustment, but it's sort of like we don't have everything else in place to make it easier for that to adjust. But with things like a UBI, people would be able to get the money together to start a fresh grocery store, maybe have a co-op, do things of that nature
or just have money to spend on the economy, baby,
Right. Go out and then your town will start to have the money that you need to build the things that you need to build. But
I would go to movies more.
Yeah, same.
More money.
Same. And I mean, all that to say that it's like I was looking at, that was making the like we need a maid joke, but it was like in my opinion, I wasn't trying. You need the concept of that, just that sort of person whose job it is, and who in this case would hopefully be doing it voluntarily because they want to, whose job it is to sort of be like, yeah, I'll do like light tidying up. If you don't want to do the classing on
Yeah,
your bracelet, I've got that for you. You are paying me in addition to whatever it is I'm making. And it's like, hopefully that would make the relationship better. But I was just thinking, what a useful person that would be to have around if they weren't treated like an actual servant, if they
absolutely,
were just there to help you.
absolutely. I got two little tangents. One is about the Walmart thing.
Yes, please.
I grew up in a tiny ass town called Barnwell, South Carolina. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's really small. My parents moved. We moved from like Atlanta in 1997,
Oh, wow.
and my dad ran a textile factory in Allendale, which was the neighboring town.
Okay.
And we moved to Barnwell, but my mom would not move until they finished building the Walmart
Okay.
because there was nowhere else.
I had not.
My mom
I
was
was agree. That was an okay of agreement. Like,
yeah, my mom was like, I'm not moving there until there's at least a Walmart.
yeah, because otherwise you're gonna literally have to drive 2+ hours to the
Yeah.
nearest town sometimes.
Well, like if we wanted to go see a movie, we would have to drive to Aiken, which was 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
If we wanted to go to like a nice dinner and go to like the nice movie theater, we'd have to go to Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Which is an hour and a half away.
I didn't live quite so far away, but I lived in a place called Damascus, which is without traffic about an hour from DC, but with 90 minutes to 2 hours. And
Right.
it was the same thing. Like when I was growing up, it was a dry town. So if we were having a party or whatever, you need to go get alcohol for your party, you'd have to go a minimum of 30 minutes away to Germantown or Gaithersburg to go buy alcohol because you couldn't buy it there. And it
Right.
was far enough away where there weren't like places in between those where you could stop off. It was just residential, and if you were lucky, like farms, churches, or what have you. But if you wanted to go to, again, a movie theater, for the longest time, there was only one mediocre one about 30 minutes away. And then a new one came that was about 40 minutes away. But it was the same sort of thing where, we
Yeah.
had a grocery store, but it was a smaller one. If you wanted to go to like, not the small Safeway, but like a regular big giant, we'd have to go to the one in Germantown if you actually wanted that. It's like, it was that sort of thing where I understand
Absolutely.
we weren't quite as isolated, just because also Maryland's much smaller, so not quite as much state to spread
Maryland.
out. Yeah,
I haven't been to Maryland. I don't think I've been through it on a train. I actually haven't
Sure.
visited it, I think.
I mean, Maryland is my home state, so I'm very sentimental towards it, but like I wouldn't necessarily recommend if someone was like, hey, I'm going to Maryland, where should I go? It's like, not my hometown. That's not where you want to go. You want to go to Baltimore or Annapolis if you're going to go to Maryland, because
Yeah.
that's where there's like the interesting stuff. Annapolis is on the water. It's got the, the really cool waterfront
Yeah.
area, and it's quirky. And then Baltimore is kind of like, interesting. It's got the concert venues, the aquarium, and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, DC proper. DC proper
Right,
has
yeah.
the DC proper. DC proper
Yeah.
has the DC thing in it.
Okay, one more thing that I want to ask you something.
Okay.
For the servants thing, you'll
Yes.
probably find this interesting, and anyone else listening might find this interesting. So I love YouTube. You have to sift through stuff, obviously.
It's true.
But once you find good content, it's better than anything that's on fucking TV. Like that's my opinion. Like in terms of like regular TV, cable TV or whatever.
Sure.
Streaming
Maybe not
premium.
the world's most highest produced shows.
Right. Yeah. But like especially educational content, which is like my jam. And there's a channel called Jay Draper, and she does a thing called the London History Show.
Okay.
And she talks about English history and stuff. And she has like a
Mhm.
30-minute video on the life of Victorian servants. And oh my God. Just the stuff those people went through. And how
Any
they were, like,
highlights for you? Because I'm writing this down.
okay. Write down the Jay Draper is her name.
Okay.
DRAPR, I think. She starts out like so say you're a poor family, you might be able to afford one servant. So it's like,
Right.
if you're this one servant, here's all the shit you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And she like gives excerpts from these books of like proper home care that are like just the most, to our eyes, are just the most arbitrary fucking shit.
I'm sure.
And then she does go work up to like, as you get richer, people would have like more kinds of servants, and there would be like a diversity as people got richer and stuff.
Right. Like kitchen servants, domestic servants.
Like jobs
Blah,
that get
blah,
split
blah.
up in the same way
Right.
that as castles. I watched a video on castles, how castles got bigger. The rooms would divide purposes. Like a relatively normal lord might have like a castle with one room. Here we are in Titanic talking about castles, but it's okay.
Tell me about castles.
Like a relatively normal lord might have just a castle that's just a tower with one room. And that's
Okay.
where you eat. That's where your family sleeps. That's whatever.
Hmm.
If you get a little richer, you might put a second room in there, so
Right.
it's like a hall, and then a bedroom. And as you get bigger, there's more rooms take up more functions instead of one room taking over everything. And the
Interesting.
servants are kind of the same way.
Right.
The more you have, the less each one has to do.
That makes
And
sense.
then,
I'm gonna have to actually
oh,
go on it.
I'll shout out some YouTube channels at the end of this too, just because
Yeah,
there's so many good ones.
totally.
Um, to I mentioned, I think of this on the live stream. There's another guy. If you want ship stuff, there's Ocean Liner Designs. The guy
Yes.
who runs that, yeah,
OLD is great.
he's good. His videos about like the Carpathian stuff are really good. I think that's my favorite by him. That should be a movie.
What?
Carpathia.
Movie. I'm sorry. I thought you
Yeah,
said
that
video
should be a
game.
movie.
I was like, huh?
It blows my mind that Titanic video games exist. I don't know. Like I know they're like point and click mysteries and stuff, but I'm just
I want a VR, a complete VR encapsulation experience where I have to try to actually escape the Titanic, but I think that we're a little too far away from that.
to be honest, I would be if I was on Titanic. I know everyone says you never know what you would do in that situation, right? But
No.
you know that guy who jumped off the boat and landed on those ladies and broke their legs? That would be me. I'd
Yeah.
be like, I'm sorry, your legs are broken, but I'm alive.
Yeah, I think I would, with my forethoughted knowledge, would just like either try to get into a lifeboat or if I missed them early, I would just jump in the water and swim for one and be like, I'm here now, and you either have to let me in or I swamp your boat. I'm
Yeah,
gonna turn into
exactly.
a terrible Kraken monster if you don't let me on. Then we're all dying. That's how it goes.
Exactly. Just don't let Lightoller see you. Well, you're a woman, so he'd let you
I
on.
am a woman, that's why.
He,
It would work for me. I would just be a very grouchy woman that they wouldn't want to deal with,
oh,
but it's still.
don't get me on Lightoller. I hate that guy.
Oh, I think I'm a little more generous towards him,
I
and
know it's fair to be more generous of his time and stuff, but I'm like, dude, in a
I'm
court of
also with
law,
you.
you could reasonably argue that I don't know. You can reasonably argue that maybe he committed a couple hundred counts of third degree murder or something like that.
In today's court, but at the time, I think that
But at the
people were
time,
just like,
no.
meh.
Yeah, at the time, no.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
Let's talk about our hero, Murdoch.
Murdoch.
He's your favorite, right?
He is my favorite.
He's awesome.
He is an underrated hero. I know that there's, a lot of historical heroes sort of in the course of the history of the world that we need to talk about, and a lot of people whose deeds get largely unacknowledged or people who get completely bypassed, but I think Murdoch's someone that I wish got a little bit more sort of mainstream public attention, especially when discussing Titanic.
Absolutely. I just heroic shit, man.
Yeah, just making all of the noble choices in a situation where nobility is hard to find.
So I said I got into Titanic like in third grade. So like in fourth grade for an English assignment, we had to write like a book, and I wrote a book on the Titanic. And the main character was basically Murdoch. I didn't know his
Aw.
name or anything, but like I
Or
wrote a point of view from like basically like the first officer. Just this little story with this guy. He's like the Titanic's sinking, and he figures it out. And I had one point where like he put his pencil on the floor on the deck and watched it roll. He's like, "My God,
that's all.
we're
Oh my
going down."
God. Well, I mean, on something that's that large, that would be a pretty good indicator, because otherwise you might just be like, well, I don't feel anything.
In a way, it's a what I did because in my head, I don't think I even really understood the concept of British and Americanness at the time. That's a cool
Fair.
thing too. I want to bring up. Titanic is really cool because it's kind of shared between Britain and America, right? Like
Yeah, in
it
that
was, it
sense.
was, it was a British ship. It was a British ship with a British crew, but it had a lot of Americans on it,
Tons
and it
of
was
Americans
on,
and high profile Americans too.
yeah, and it was on the way to the United States, and
Hmm.
so it's kind of this shared tragedy that we both have, which is just interesting to me. And
No, I agree.
um, but that reminds me what I did with replacing my Murdoch with some American guy. So have you heard about Nazi Titanic?
I am saving that to. I haven't watched it yet, but
I
I'm
haven't watched
aware
it
of
yet.
it.
I
I'm
really want to
aware.
watch it, not because
Same.
it's Nazis or anything, but it blows my mind that in 1943, when Germany is losing the war hard at that point,
Right.
that they produced a movie,
Right. This is
which
your move.
was, yeah. Also, it's the first movie called Titanic, was the one that Joseph Goebbels made.
Interesting. So
And,
technically, he did it first.
huh?
Technically, he did it first.
Yeah, he was the first one to call a movie Titanic. Um, and yeah, the first officer in that movie is a German, randomly. Just
That
some
makes sense.
random German first officer, and he's the only one who knows what's going on. And of course, Ismay is a capitalist Jew coded guy, and yeah,
Right.
and the Captain Smith is a drunk Englishman because that was one of the big propaganda things against the Brits in World War II. Was like, your prime minister is just fucking drunk all the time.
Right.
All you boozy ass people. So just that idea is fascinating to me.
It's one of those things where it's like I'm both excited to watch it and super dreading it because I know it's going to be absolute ridiculousness, but it's also going to be like
Yeah,
this could be a good time.
yeah. Well, we can laugh at it because they lost, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's like, well,
That's the
hi,
reason it's giggly.
Goebbels is going to be dead in 2 years after this is made. So yeah.
Hooray! Well,
Uh,
before I let you go back to the beach and swimsuits and stuff, you said you
yeah,
wanted to
absolutely.
shout out your own stuff and wanted to give some recommendations. You gave two. You gave us Jay Draper and
Yep.
Ocean Liner Designs. Anybody else that you want to recommend before you recommend yourself?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So good channels on YouTube to watch. If you like history, and especially this time period, there's a World War I channel called The Great War that I watched all of from the years from 2014 to 18. They did that war week, 1 week at a time. They
Wow,
went through the whole thing and
that's an
just
effort.
learned so much. And they're doing the same thing with World War II right now.
Whew,
And
that
they're
is an undertaking.
getting close to the end. They didn't want to wait till 2019 to do the World War II channel, so they started in 2018.
Sure.
Um, so it's 79 years later instead of like the first one, which was
It's
like, the first one was like Great War 100 years later. This was just like, we're just
we're
79
not
years
gonna
behind.
wait that
Yeah, we don't want to wait a whole extra
20
year.
years.
Like they just did the World War II channel is just amazing. If you're into that stuff, there's special episodes on uh, all kinds of technology and stuff. There's a sub series about the war against humanity because you can't cover just the atrocities and just like the war coverage.
Right.
And they also did a 6 hour long Pearl Harbor special that was Pearl Harbor minute by minute. And
Wow.
yeah, it was really cool with Ella. And they did it in what, six? So they did it in like 10, no, it was five. They did it in like 10 half-hour episodes
That's pretty cool.
in real time. And they also just did D-Day. They did a 24 hours coverage of D-Day where they
Well,
put
speaking
out,
of disaster movies, this is an
yeah.
excellent disaster podcast. Sounds like it.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
not
Well, this
podcast,
is,
YouTube channel. YouTube channel.
yeah, it's a YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. Considering, yeah, that's probably the greatest disaster to happen. And
Yeah, obviously.
it's in the past century.
Ugh.
Um, I watched the shit out of those. Uh, those are the main ones I wanted to talk about because of the history and stuff.
Neat. Well, where can the people find you if they want
Cool.
to find you?
Well, if you are interested in me and finding me, you could find me at Dolorous Nick. That is DOLOROUS Nick. That's a Game of Thrones reference or a Song of Ice and Fire reference. There's a character named Dolorous Ed,
Ah, okay.
who is funny because he has such a grim sense of humor. He's the funniest character in his books. So,
I'm into it.
but it looks like Dolores Nick everywhere though I put it, but so I have to pronounce make sure I pronounced it the right way.
Sounds right to me. Anywhere else we can find you,
But
or is that's the
I'm
one?
the same place. Oh, I'm on Twitter at that, and I'm the same on Instagram, except it's $Nick187. And those are my main two socials.
Cool.
Until I'll stay on Twitter till it burns. Well,
Yeah, I'm doing that with the show,
yes,
but see.
yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, that's kind of everything. We'll see.
Yeah, I
an
just have
aggressive
met so
person.
many cool people on Twitter, and I'm not ready to
Same.
let it go yet.
Same. That's the whole reason that I haven't been able to just cut it loose. But I mean, maybe it'll cut itself loose from me in the future. I have no idea what's gonna happen. We'll see. But Nick, thank you so much for coming
Oh,
on. I can tell your kid was asking if you were coming outside like 20 minutes ago. So
oh
you
no,
should go swim with your kid. I'm
no, he was
sorry.
asking if I was done with the Wi-Fi because he wanted to.
Oh, never mind then. But either, well, you probably want to go do stuff. But thank you
Uh,
so much for coming on. It was
yeah,
amazing
thank
to
you for
talk to
having me.
you.
Oh, and check out people listening. You probably already
Uh-huh.
heard these, but check out Beyond the Breakers,
Yes, please
Spooky
do.
Science Sisters. Uh, those are the main two podcasts I listen to right now.
They are a good time.
If you want your shipwreck fix, those guys are
Yes,
great. It's how I found your show.
they're both amazing.
Listening to you talk to Tanner, that was pretty fun.
It
And
was such a good time. And Megan,
yeah,
Megan.
it, I found Tanner through Twitter before I even knew about the podcast because like we're both into like Warhammer.
Oh, nice. Oh, man, my boyfriend would love to hear that. He's a big Warhammer dude.
I don't play or anything. I don't have money to collect or anything. I just read
That's
the
fair.
books. I just read the books. I just
I
like
mean,
the setting. But
that's cool too.
but
Well,
thank you
I
so much
am.
for having me on. I
Thank
know
you for coming on. I am
that's
sure I will talk to you again very soon.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
awesome. And to everyone listening, I will see you guys next time.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks so much.